Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 362 of a year of change. When we first started doing this stuff, not more necessarily, but a big part of what we've done over the past year, we have our little victories. We can say that our willpower is improved, and we can certainly, it has. That we've been tracking everything, but aside from all the little things that we've had to do to sort of keep us on track, and the little victories that we've had, and the changing our eating habits and all that stuff, one of the things I think that has contributed a lot to it is just having new information. We always had something that not necessarily brand new, but new information to us that we could use in what we're trying to accomplish. And I think it's very important that once this year is completed, that we continue doing that. Now, it doesn't always have to be just brand new information. It doesn't have to be on the cusp of technology every single time and just saying, cusp of technology? Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. Just doesn't have to be cutting edge. There we go. Ooh, there's a cliche term for you. It doesn't have to be something that's brand new. That, well, the study that was released last week told us this, and then a study from 3 days ago told us this. Just going out and being able to find the information that we need that pertains to us, I think, is helpful enough. And there have been a number of different things that we've looked at over the course of the year that I found to be really, really helpful. Maybe not necessarily in a practical, this is going to help me lose weight kind of way, but just having that information, I find, is a benefit. One of the things that sticks out is when we looked at the salads for fast food places, where, basically they're just as bad. They have just as much fat and sugar and calories and everything else in it as the regular burgers do. So it was sort of not necessarily a good weight loss thing, but if you're going with friends and you're going out to a fast food place, you don't have to be that one person going, I'm just going to have a salad. You can have the burger because it's going to be just as damaging as their salads are. So it won't matter. Something like that. Looking at, even just debunking some of the bullshit that we've seen over the past year. Like, I don't have to be afraid of bread anymore because that's bullshit. I don't have to buy kale 5 times a week because that's bullshit. Just all these little, there are a ton of fads and gimmicks and, whatever the hot topic is at the moment. Whether it's superfoods or weight loss equipment or a new supplement or magic pills or whatever it is, or as we saw a couple of weeks ago, operational mechanical surgery things, basically the robotic barfing. We can still have that information, but I don't think it needs to be something that's, every single week you're going out, you're striving to find some new information that's going to help you lose weight. There's been a lot of stuff that we've looked at that isn't new information, but it's been new to us because we never looked into it. Like when we first started this, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We knew very basic stuff. We knew, I need to eat less, I need to do more. That's pretty much it. Obviously we knew our eating habits needed to change because a lot of us were eating, cakes and cookies, and for me, just tons and tons and tons of salt. We knew that things like the salt was bad for us. We knew that. But being able to look at it and say, okay, this is really bad. And I'm eating a tremendous amount of salt. I'm eating almost a lethal dose, every single day. Looking at the amount of sugar that we consume. Learning that, low fat means high sugar. Something like that. Little bits of information that will help us to make informed decisions and make better choices when we're trying to lose weight. Because we have enough going against us as it is. So I think it's really good to just sort of gather as much information as you can, just so that you can, when you go in somewhere, whether it's buying groceries or starting an exercise, that you may not know everything, but you know enough that you can go in and say, okay, I can clear away some of the garbage that's in there, some of the, the flair and all the bells and whistles, and just get the information that I need that's going to help me. And it could be anything from sleep apnea stuff that we were looking at to calorie counts to sugar content. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as it's something that you feel is going to benefit you. And it's going to be different for everybody. Some of you may be at a stage right now where you don't worry about your food anymore and you're mainly looking at exercise. So you're saying, okay, well, I need to find out what percentage of protein is best for muscle building, or I need to find out what carbohydrates are the quickest ones to digest or whatever they do. I haven't looked at it yet. You're going to be sort of tweaking your food that way. For the majority of us, we're still at that stage where, okay, I still need to watch how much I'm taking in. I need to avoid, cookies and candies and junk food and chips and all the other stuff. Need to cut back on this and try to add a little bit more here. And then there are some of you that are just still at this stage, just sort of starting out, getting accustomed to the tracking, and maybe you haven't even started your exercise yet, and you're sort of skipping ahead, which is fine. But as long as you go back and start things over, you should be okay. But I think that it's really, really important that we actively look for stuff like that, pertaining to whatever stage you're at right now. Like for me, although I'm starting to sort of increase my treadmill, which I'll talk about this weekend. Something happened this week, which is great. But although I'm starting to increase work towards something on my treadmill, it's not anything that I feel that I need to start looking at information yet, because it's not to that stage. I'm not looking at marathon runs or, okay, well, what do I need to do to run a 5K or a 10K or this or this or this? Because I'm just simply not at that stage yet. I'm still at this is still exercise for me. I know that it's enough that I'm not hurting myself. I'm not overexerting myself. My heart isn't going to explode halfway through. I should be fine. But I am still looking at things like, fruits and vegetables. If there's something that I'm doing that, because there are some times when I look at it and go, should I be eating this? You always hear people say, don't eat any carbohydrates. It's horrible. Don't eat rice. Well, rice is very good. And there are millions of people that eat rice all the time that aren't fat. So, we can look at that for an example. I'm not saying I'm researching rice or anything. But just looking for information like that, whether it's something to do with weight loss or whether it's diet and nutrition, whether it's exercise, whether it's just simple health in general. Not that you've got to go studying every single day and trying to find, I need to find the latest information on what they're saying. We've seen what the damage that latest information can do. If you remember a few months ago when they came out with a report saying that processed meats were right up there with cigarettes and arsenic and something else. Can't remember what it was. Whole slew of stuff. They said it's just as dangerous as smoking because it can cause cancer. And the world went apeshit for about 2 days. Everyone, well, not the world, but North America, kind of panicked and said, well, we obviously can't buy this anymore because we will get cancer and we will die if we have it on pizza. And we looked at that a little deeper and we saw that it wasn't exactly what people were thinking, that it was a confirmation, but still it's a matter of it doesn't change what you're going to be eating. It doesn't change the risk that's in there. They just were able to prove something, and that's all that it was. But people tend to latch onto that and then run with it and say, oh my God, look at what we found out. So it's a little difficult to try to filter through some of that stuff when we're trying to look for information, because it just, in order to get people's attention, that's what they need. So when you are looking for it, there are places that we can go. I've always felt that the Mayo Clinic was a good source because it's very matter of fact. They present the information. They'll say, here's the good part, here's the bad part. But in general, there's not a lot of sensationalism to it. There's nothing that's really going to sort of jump out and say, well, you have to do this one thing to help you lose weight. I find it to be very objective, and that's really what we should be looking for. You're always going to find people that, have anecdotal evidence for one thing or the other, which is not evidence. It's an anecdote. That's all it is. It doesn't prove anything. We don't know what else they did during their weight loss thing to give them, success or failure or whatever it was. So when you're looking for something like this, whether it's a matter of looking for, something to help you with weight loss, or if you're looking at nutrition a little deeper and saying, okay, what is going to be the best thing for me if I need iron or if I need to raise my vitamin D, stuff like that. If eventually you ever get to that point, always try to get it from good sources. And we've talked about this a few times before. So Mayo Clinic is up there. Journal of Scientific Medicine, American Journal of Medicine, I think is what I'm looking at. JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association. Journal of the American Medical Association, that's what I'm thinking of. American Heart Association is another good one. Basically, places that have been around for quite some time that you can go and say, okay, these are run by scientists. These are not people that are trying to sell anything. These aren't people that have a commercial interest in anything. That's where I try to get my information. And every now and then you are going to see a news story where, you need to sort of filter out some of the bullshit and some of the glamour and some of the, what's what I'm looking for? fear mongering, I guess is probably the best way to put it. Get rid of a lot of the hype just to get to the main information, to find out what's good, what's bad. And it's going to be different depending on what you're looking for. And it doesn't have to be an active thing that you're saying, well, every single day I need to find something to help contribute to what I'm trying to do. But if you have an interest in it, if you find that you're at a stage where you say, okay, well, I need to, I'm done with this sort of exercise. I want to try something else. Go look it up. It doesn't matter, even if it's on Wikipedia as a start, somewhere that you can go to get the very basic information. Find out, do I want to continue on with this? The same thing goes with diet nutrition. If you're thinking, I'm going to try to, increase protein. Find out what increased protein does to you. What you're going to need to do. Are you just adding it in there because it sounds healthy? Are you going to be doing something to help, build muscle when you're eating the protein? Or is it simply a matter of you going, I just kind of thought that I needed more protein, but apparently I'm good. I have the right level of wherever I am. So it's really important, I think, that when we continue on after this year, that we still look for that information. We try to find, things that are going to be helpful to us. And practically speaking as well, not just something that, there's some bare information that has no bearing on what I'm doing at all. I said bare twice there. Neat. And I rhymed. But it needs to be something that you are probably going to be able to use. And not everything is going to be like that. You're going to find a lot of information that you go, okay, well, that was very interesting, and now I know that for future reference, or, but I can't use it right now. Whether it's something you can use a few months down the road, or whether it's something that you think, I'm past that point now. I don't need to worry about sleep apnea at this stage. Say if you've lost enough weight that you're past that point, then, you still have that information, but it doesn't need to be something that you think, well, I have to have this information right now for, the stage I'm at. But just in general, keeping that mentality open, or keeping that, what's the word I'm looking for? Not that mentality. Keeping the interest? I don't know. Keeping an open mind sounds really weird, because although that's beneficial, you don't just want to say, well, crystals work. I have an open mind. No, they don't. Don't fucking work at all. Science works. Crystals don't work. So any of the other shit, like, I can't think of the word. Not hydroponics. Hydroponics does work. I can't think of any words right now. My vocabulary is completely fucked at this point. Homeopathy. There we go. That's the term I'm looking for. Things like homeopathy. It's just having an open mind does not mean that it's useful information. And just trying to give someone, your ears for the sake of balance or just to be fair. No. When you're telling someone something that is categorically bullshit, then you don't need to respect their opinion. If they're completely wrong, you can simply say, no, you're wrong. Everyone knows you're wrong. It's snake oil. You're basically just saying, well, if you use homeopathy and crystals, you can heal. Well, no, you can't. You simply can't. You can't. You don't even have to go and say, well, here you need to prove it. Like, no, it simply doesn't work. Okay? Crystallized minerals and water are not going to heal you. Anyway, it gets me every single time whenever I hear someone talk about stuff like that, because you think, like, this really is, the equivalent of snake oil. Just saying, well, we've put in, some spider webs and some icing and a little bit of smoke from a cigar. So as long as you have this under your pillow, then you won't have nightmares. That's the equivalent of it. It's the exact same thing. Anyway, but the information that we are trying to find, it should be something that you feel is going to be beneficial to you. And it's out there everywhere. And yeah, there are going to be some that you're going to find, and it's not going to be helpful at all. There are some that it's going to be very, very helpful. There is some, grammar's off too. Sorry. So it's a matter of sort of picking through everything and not just believing something because you want it to be true. If you do hear something, especially if it's not from some place like Mayo Clinic or the American Heart Association or something like that, if it's anecdotal, you can pretty much guarantee it's not going to be true. But if you hear something like, say, on a news story, even a reputable news source like CBC or CTV or CNN or ABC or LMNOP or wherever it is, if it's on the news somewhere, do a little bit more research. Go a little bit deeper, take a look at it and go, okay, well, I understand why they presented it this way. It's not entirely true. This isn't exactly what the study showed. And, it makes it much, much easier when you look at it that way to take out what you need and find something that's going to be useful to you, whether it's for food or exercise or just general health. even if you're at a point where, I mean, probably the best thing to, or well, one of the things that I would say for an example is finding out about the salt and the sugar and the low fat stuff. Because we know sort of, we have an idea as to what health food is compared to what junk food is. And there was a lot of stuff that we were looking at, for me anyway, when I first started, going, okay, well, this is healthy and this is not. We just have a very vague sort of, so I can't think of any words right now. A vague impression, there we are, of what is good and bad. Like, there are some things that we know categorically are bad. Potato chips, we know those are bad. Cake, we know that is bad. Salads, we know those are good. But, of course, there's always that one thing like, well, not McDonald's salads. Those are bad. And, but looking at things like cottage cheese, for example, which just sort of generally is seen as a health food. But depending on the brand, if you get low fat, then you're dumping in, 3 or 4 times as much sugar, which is much worse for you than the fat. And so, of course, just having that little bit of information was enough to, sort of steer us in the right direction. We looked at cereals, we looked at cottage cheese, we looked at a bunch of things, pizza, pretty much any processed food, at the amount of sugar that was in there. And although, part of us kind of still wants to have that, it did help us get to a point where we can sort of start cutting back a little bit on the processed food, have, for lack of a better term, whole foods, stuff that we prepare ourselves. And it's not perfect. It's not, we still don't have the diet of, a marathon runner, a marathon runner. They runny marathons. Marathons, even better. We don't have the diet of a marathon runner. We don't have a diet of a bodybuilder or, an Olympic athlete. We don't even have a body of a regular athlete, like a weekend person who's on some peewee team somewhere, like a farm team for a hockey team. We don't even have that. We still have a very basic, we're trying to stay away from the worst kinds of foods. That's our diet right now, is eating things that we look at and go, okay, I think it might be healthy. I'm going to double check. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. And go from there. Eventually, at some point, we might have the information and the knowledge that we can sort of pursue that if you want. But right now, that's not where we are. Not where I am anyway. Some of you might be. You might be at that stage where you're sort of setting things aside and saying, I need 8 ounces of this and 4 ounces of that, and I only need, 0.25 grams of this particular type of fatty acid. I'm still not there. I'm at a point where I go, okay, hamburger or tuna fish? Probably the tuna fish is probably better for me. We're still at that stage. And I think a lot of us are as well. But even that little bit of information has helped greatly. I mean, we've made a tremendous amount of progress over this year. But I think continuing on after that, like still looking for that information, trying to find out new information about our diet and exercise and everything else that goes along with it, I think that's going to continue to help us. Because a lot of the information that we learned, it wasn't anything really brand new. It wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't, we had a few studies from here, a few studies here and there, not from here and there. Well, they were from here, they were from there, they were from everywhere. But we had some studies here and there that were new, but a lot of them, if you remember, weren't really, this is conclusive evidence that this is happening. A lot of them, if they were brand new, was just a matter of saying, this warrants more study. This is interesting enough that they can look at it and say, we think there might be a correlation here, so we should be looking at this a little bit deeper to see if we can find some more connections and, make things up that way. But as far as, the information that we did take in that was out there, it's, very solid information. Keep going back to kale. We don't need to buy kale and have it for every single meal. It's just like every other leafy green vegetable. You're fine. It's not a superfood. There are no superfoods. That's another thing. Trying to find a cereal that doesn't have 10,000 grams of sugar in it. Just being able to do the measurement alone of sugar. When you look at it and say, it says it only has 80 calories in this can of, whatever. And then you stop and you think, well, there's only water, color, and sugar in it. So that's 80 calories of pure sugar. That's 20 teaspoons. So even just being able to do a quick conversion like that, whether or not you actually use the information, just having it, I find, gives you that little, okay, you know what, maybe I'll sort of stay away from that. You're much more apt to use it if you have it, I guess is probably the best way to put it. So I think the pursuit of that as we continue on is going to help us to continue to lose weight. and we're going to be learning more. We're going to get a little bit more detailed with stuff that you're going to find an interest somewhere along the line. For some of you, it's going to be, looking at food a little closer, finding out, exactly what the makeup is that's going to help you to, cut back on cravings and help you lose more weight and try to avoid some of the worst foods that you still have cravings for. For some of you, it's going to be exercise, finding out what's going to be the most efficient, something that's going to benefit you the most, and things that you enjoy and how you can, do a little bit more so that you get more out of it. It's going to be different for everyone, but I think that just general pursuit of knowledge, anyway, is a key component to what we've done during this year. It's helped a lot. We've learned a tremendous amount, and by being able to apply that, I think that probably a big chunk of our weight loss is attributed to that. Because I think if we were just doing the, we're going to just cut back on calories, try to eat health foods, and, start exercising later on, I don't think that we would have come as far as we did. I think we would still have progress, because you can't just, cut back and eat health foods and start exercising and not lose weight. It simply won't happen. But because we've been able to sort of change things and tweak things here and there just based on the information that we have, and even if it's something, unsubstantial? Insubstantial? No, I think it's insubstantial. I don't know. Even if it's something that's not substantial, God, that's going to bug me now, because in my head I'm thinking, you're stupid. You should know what that word is. Even if it's something that doesn't really pertain to us, or if it was just something like an interest piece, you never know. A year from now, you might actually put something like that into practice. But I just think that by keeping that mindset of constantly learning, trying to find something that is going to benefit us one way or the other, you're going to have a lot of useless information. But getting that one nugget of information out of every 25 or 30 different things that you read, that can help. And I mean, it has. Just we know that it has. And especially where this is going to be an ongoing thing, this is going to become part of our life. And I don't think it's ever going to be anything that we're going to be able to stop, actually. Or that we'll need to, without sort of worrying that we're going to backslide. But I think having that information is going to help keep us on track. It has during this year, and I think hopefully it will over the next few years anyway, and keep us going. But there have been a number of different things that have helped us, but I think this is one of them. And there isn't anything really beyond that. It's not like a little victory going, oh, well, I use this little bit of information. Just being able to have that, it's going to trigger something at some point. It'll click, and you never know. Maybe out of the 90 pounds that you lose, then even if 10 pounds of it, even if 5 pounds of it is attributed just to new information that you learned, then yeah, it helped. It contributed something. And as we've seen over the past year, every little thing that we start adding in there, they do add up, whether it's changes or information or, cutting out foods or adding foods or whatever it is, they've all added up, and, putting them all together obviously is benefiting us. So hopefully we'll continue on after this. But anyway, I've gone on for a very, very long time, and again, these are really long. I'm sorry. But for now, I think I've said what I need to say. So keep learning, keep looking at stuff, keep trying to find new information if you can, and whenever you can apply it, definitely do. But right now, I'm going to leave this video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video.